Hello, welcome to the Credit Compass, your guide to navigating European credit markets. Each week we unpack key developments in credit, explore the macroeconomic forces shaping the landscape, and dive into the strategies that matter most for investors across Europe and the UK. Whether you're a fixed income veteran or just finding your footing, our goal is to make the complex world of credit more transparent and actionable. This week, the clock is ticking in Brussels as the EU navigates a shifting global trade order. The transition has been costly for European governments, triggering increased public spending, and with it, growing scrutiny from bond investors. One unexpected beneficiary of the new environment? European bank mergers, as political tensions and regulatory pushback come to the fore, especially in Italy. All right, let's get into it. On the 7th of July, just ahead of a self-imposed trade tariff deadline, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent extended the timeline. But the reprieve came with a clear warning. If trade partners, including the EU, fail to strike deals, tariffs could snap back to the levels proposed on April 2nd, at a minimum. Soon after, President Trump posted draft tariff letters on Truth Social, suggesting potential hikes of up to 70% on imports from BRICS-aligned nations. For Europe, negotiations are reportedly nearing completion on issues like autos, agriculture, and digital taxation, but sticking points remain, particularly around state aid ceilings for green tech and whether the U.S. will recognize European carbon credits. The aim is to finalize a principles-based agreement before the Eurogroup meeting on July 15th, giving negotiators 2 weeks to translate it into legal text ahead of the August 1st snapback date. The key concern is avoiding disproportionate impacts on sensitive sectors. A total of 52 billion euros in EU car exports to the US are at stake, with German original equipment manufacturers lobbying for any tariff adjustments to be phased in gradually, similar to previous US trade agreements. Turning to China, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen addressed the European Parliament this week, emphasizing China's expanding role in EU trade. In 2024, EU exports to China totaled 213 billion euros, while imports reached 518 billion euros, leaving a record trade deficit of 304 billion, nearly double pre-pandemic levels. Based on data through May, 2025 is on track to mark the highest trade deficit with China ever recorded. This shift reflects Beijing's pivot away from U.S. reliance, a trend that began under the first Trump administration's tariff actions. While increased trade with China isn't inherently negative, von der Leyen expressed concern over the imbalance, particularly with an EU-China summit on the horizon later this month. Tensions have escalated, with China imposing restrictions on European brandy and the EU limiting medical device imports in response. The broader theme? A slow but steady drift away from globalization toward a new, more fragmented trade regime. As von der Leyen put it, Europe's relationship with China must be based on a clear-eyed assessment of the new reality. As we noted last week, the EU appears poised to lean into a more reliable, rules-based order seeking greater trade diversification. That includes closer ties with countries like Australia and Canada for rare earth minerals and other strategic imports historically sourced from China. Germany, as ever, is central to Europe's economic trajectory. As the EU's top intra-bloc trader, serving as the largest trade partner for 17 of the 27 member states, Germany's turnaround is crucial. After committing to increased defense and infrastructure spending, Berlin is now debating a power price relief plan for heavy industry. The proposal is a €5 billion subsidy to cap electricity costs for roughly 2,200 energy-intensive firms in chemicals, glass, plastics over the next 3 years. But the finance ministry is pushing back amid widening deficits projected to hit €126 billion by 2029. Germany's economy continues to feel the impact of its pivot away from Russian energy, leaving it with some of the highest power costs in Europe. A relief package could improve conditions for exporters and bolster industrial competitiveness. Still, recent trade data was disappointing. May exports fell 1.4%, worse than expectations for only a 0.5% decline. Imports also dropped 3.8%. Much of the pullback reflects uncertainty surrounding global trade negotiations, with many businesses in a sort of holding pattern. There are, however, green shoots. Industrial production improved in May in Germany, and PMIs are showing signs of recovery. A firm resolution on trade could help unlock stalled investment and planning across the region. Meanwhile, the bond vigilantes are stirring. In the UK, Chancellor Rachel Reeves had a turbulent week, with bond yields spiking after a tense session in Parliament where speculation swirled about her future. And after Prime Minister's reassurances calmed the markets, yields still do remain elevated. While this was seen as a vote of confidence in Reeves, the broader concern is still unresolved. The UK continues to pursue growth and infrastructure spending, but with little to show for it thus far. Bond markets are growing uneasy at the combination of persistent spending and lackluster growth. France is in a similar bind, with yields reflecting investor skepticism about fiscal discipline. Uncertainty continues to weigh on several other European economies, but a confirmed US-EU trade deal could help to provide some much-needed clarity heading into the summer. Lastly, European bank consolidation is once again in the spotlight. On Tuesday, EU regulators warned the Italian government that it had no legal authority to impose conditions on UniCredit's planned acquisition of Banco BPM. The Commission will formally request that Rome withdraw its requirements, citing EU rules that give Brussels exclusive oversight of merger-related restrictions. This challenge could open the door to more cross-border banking deals in the months ahead, something that has struggled to be realized across Europe. So what does it all mean for markets this week? Well, the US has reset the trade clock, Europe is balancing precariously between Washington and Beijing, and Germany hasn't quite turned the corner, but it is making progress to the benefit of the region. And bond markets are restless, keeping governments accountable. Expect trade negotiations, fiscal positioning, and energy relief plans to remain in sharp focus as we move deeper into July. So stay nimble out there, and be sure to enjoy the summer sun. That's all for this edition of the Credit Compass. If you found today's episode helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with friends and colleagues. Got a question or a topic you'd like us to cover? Well, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And for more in-depth financial research and credit ratings, visit us at KBRA.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay resilient. Let the Credit Compass help guide your way.